Hello everyone, this is Taylor Z here again, and today I'm going to talk to you all about my personal favorite Thomas and Friends episodes. I've had this idea in mind for quite a while, and I thought maybe now was a better time to do it than never. Keep in mind, these episodes are based entirely off of my own opinions and is in no way a top 20 best or anything like that. But enough rambling about that. Let's just get right on into my top 20 favorite Thomas and Friends episodes. Number 20, Percy, James, and the Fruitful Day. As a kid, I was obsessed with this episode. Mainly because it came from one of my favorite tapes, James Goes Buzz Buzz. But I guess you could say I was a sucker for the Percy and James dynamic, as I'm sure there are many of us that do enjoy that. I just love seeing these two go at each other, only for one or both to get their comeuppance in the end. I do, however, like the overall meaning of the story that just because you or we may try to help someone out of a jam, things are still bound to go wrong. But you're still really useful nonetheless, as Thomas points that out in the end. Also, I really enjoyed listening to the music, particularly the harbor theme. It's a nice, calm little piece that never really gets old. I could watch this episode literally over 20 times and just never get bored with it. It's that good. Number 19, You Can't Win. This one is a definite out of all the Duke stories we've received. I have a big amount of respect for Duke, given all that he's been through. But you must be asking yourselves, why this one in particular? Is it the way George Carlin did Duke's voice, perhaps? Or maybe was it just the beautiful shots we saw throughout the episode? Well, to tell you the honest-to-goodness truth, I don't have a straightforward answer. It's just a really beautiful-looking episode. Now, that's not to say that I don't care for the other Duke episodes like Grandpa for Sleeping Beauty, because I enjoy those episodes very much. Being that my least favorite is Bulldog, I could really give a damn about that one. It's just that this episode alone stands out to me more. I mean, the fact that we're looking at poor Duke struggling to get his work done, but he's determined more than ever to not let his friends down. You have to give him some kind of praise for that. But my favorite part about this episode is definitely the end, where Stuart gets what's coming to him after teasing old Duke. A really great moral that not only he, but even Falcon could even learn from time to time. Never, ever, ever doubt your elders. Because you never know what tricks they may still have bubbling in their boilers. Number 18, Thomas the Babysitter. This episode is a true pleasure to watch. I remember when season 19 was just rolling around, and this was the only episode I was extremely hyped for, and it really did not disappoint. What makes this episode even more enjoyable for me is how, thinking back to when I was a kid, I used to think to myself, how cool would it be to have a baby character featured in Thomas? It's mind-blowing to know how a good portion of this episode I was able to predict with some changes here and there. Yes, I would have loved to see if maybe this could have worked out better with the models, but now I actually think it works better for the CGI series. And while I do admit that, I can see why the generic baby sounds can be a little annoying to some, it doesn't necessarily ruin the episode for me. Overall, I can't really say anything else about it other than I think it's fantastic. I love the scenery, I love the music, and I especially love the character dynamic between Thomas, Annie, and Clarabelle trying to calm the baby. At least now they know what new parents go through when they have newborn children, don't they? Number 17, Halloween. Oh my god, this episode is just wow. I remember watching this episode first when it aired on PBS Kids, just as season 8 was just starting to air, and I had the massive goosebumps through its entirety. And whenever I watched my Solar Celebration DVD, I could not wait to get to this episode. Everything about it is just freaking awesome! This is actually one of the very few episodes where I can tolerate Emily's behavior, Whereas her other main Season 8 roles, she was just a straight up bitch, and unfortunately was like that throughout the rest of the series. But in this one, I'm actually okay with it. Even Thomas's character I'm alright with. Truthfully though, I think the best part about this episode is definitely the music. I just really love how it hyped up most of the scenes, like Thomas and Emily first entering the smelters, or the whole chase scene towards the end. Again, I just love everything about this episode. I love the dynamic between Thomas and Emily, the spooky atmosphere on the sets, and especially the bone-chilling music. A very big kudos to Dave Ingham for writing a very well-written spooky episode. Number 16, Percy's Chocolate Crunch. I can't even tell you how many times I've probably watched this episode off of my Chocolate Crunch tape. I remember when my younger sister and I were sitting in the living room one year, and of all days, we got this as an Easter gift. Hey, what more could you ask for? Would sure put you in the mood, wouldn't it? Now you may notice, this is actually the only episode I have from Season 6. Now that's not to say that I don't hate the season itself, it's just that not a lot of episodes can really top what I have on my top 20 list. Personally, I do think that Season 6 is overhated, and I know it's probably because of Alec Baldwin's lame-ass narration and so forth, but I don't ever refer to those. I just stick with the UK, and most of the stories still hold up pretty fair. But anyways, back to the episode. You just have to feel so bad for Percy. All he really wants is just to be clean while doing his work, but the dude can't catch a break. But of course, the best thing about that episode is the infamous chocolate factory crash. And holy cow, I have never seen anything like that ever, and it was just crazy. Even Percy covered in chocolate has me dying every single time. I just hope nobody was in that factory though. But overall, this is definitely one of the more wackier episodes of Season 6, and I could watch this over and over and over again. Number 15, Buzz Buzz. No, this isn't because James is my favorite character of the show. This is just a very uniquely styled James episode. Why? Well, two reasons. One, I love the short dynamic between James, Trevor, and Duck. We don't normally see James interact with these characters, so it's pretty cool for the time being given the short amount of screen time. But the other reason is the cartoony animation they use for the bees. You'd never think we'd see anything like this in Thomas of all things, and it played out really well. Of course, I won't lie when I say this was another one of those episodes that kinda had me scared, all because of James's scream. I mean, wouldn't you be scared too if you heard this for the first time? George Carlin definitely intensified that, didn't he? Nowadays, I just find it hilarious. But overall, I never get tired of this episode, and it is definitely by far one of my all-time favorite James-related stories. Number 14, Love Me Tender. Apart from Break Van, this is Donald and Douglas at their best, hands down. It was such a relief to see these two amazing Scotties return after so long. And no, I do not count Sodor's Legend as their return, quote-unquote, because they were just thrown in there for fan service. I count this episode as their true welcome back debut. I just love the brotherly dynamic between them, mainly because it's kind of funny watching them bicker over the little things, which can make them very relatable to some fans. And even though they may get cross with one another, you can still see that they very much care for each other regardless of whomever may be in trouble, as displayed previously in Twin Trouble. And of course, who can forget about that wonderfully recreated theme for them? It's outstanding to listen to. It's definitely one of my favorite things out of the whole show. Overall, this episode is so heartwarming, and it's truly the Scotties at their finest. A very big thanks to Davey Moore for bringing our beloved twins back properly. Number 13, Toby and the Flood. Wow, what an action-packed episode this is. I mean, my God, it was over the top, but it was done so brilliantly. However, this was the episode that did introduce me to Season 5, and it sent my anxiety levels through the roof. How? Let me explain. I remember when my parents and I had gone to Toys R Us to look for just anything new Thomas merch related, and we came across Races, Rescues, and Runaways. Well, we immediately bought it, and we took it home to my grandmother's. But after watching the first couple of minutes, between the unsettling atmosphere and very ominous music, I was starting to feel a tad uncomfortable. And then, of course, when the dam breaks, and Toby being one of my favorite characters as a kid, watching him in a perilous situation like that horrified me. I was so frightened I told my parents, turn it off, because I just couldn't handle the suspense. And unfortunately, not only by that episode, but a small handful of others, I never wanted to go anywhere near Season 5. I just couldn't handle all those suspenseful moments. Yes, I did miss out on quite a lot, but years down the road, I did give it another shot, and now Season 5 is by far one of my favorite seasons. But going back to the episode, the suspense with Toby is just heart-pounding, like, oh my God, is he gonna be okay? And yes, I know the episode itself is unrealistic as hell, and I know some people complain that Toby just sits there. I get it. But if you overlook all of that, it definitely is a heart-stopping, suspenseful, amazingly written story that I could watch over and over and over. Number 12, Trust Thomas. I know some of you are probably thinking, why this of all episodes? It's got plot holes and this and that. To be perfectly honest, I don't really care about any of that. You gotta understand, it was one of my favorites to watch on my Trust Thomas tape, and being the basic bitch that I was, Thomas was my favorite character as a kid, and I just loved seeing him on screen. But obviously my favorite thing about the episode was the crash. Whether it is or isn't realistic, I don't care. I still think it's a pretty cool crash. Plus that toad is hilarious. I don't necessarily see why people were confused with the whole plot itself. It was pretty straightforward, even as a kid, but I guess that's just me. If you really don't care for this episode, that's fine, I totally understand. But for me, the nostalgia is still there, and it is still a timeless classic just for me.
The toad, who was looking forward to a ride home, noisily agreed.
Number 11, Percy's Promise. Wow, was this episode common to run into back then. It appears on like 5 different Thomas tapes. I mean, was it really that big of a fan favorite? Who knows? All I know is that whenever this episode came on, I was immediately excited, as it was one of my very favorite Percy-related episodes. Now, I understand that this was supposed to be before Percy takes the plunge, and some people are pissed at that, but for some odd reason, to me personally, it just seems like it fits into Season 3 more. I don't see it being a Season 2 related episode. It's sort of like the same situation with Henry and the Elephant. It just seems to fit the season it's in, whether it makes sense or not. But anyway, I definitely love to listen to the storm theme as Percy takes the children home. That and the ominous setting makes it a little unnerving, like, oh man, are they really gonna get home safely? And how the hell did that model not get damaged in the water? That's something we may never find out. Oh well. But even so, Percy never gave up, and he did prove that even in big situations like this, once again, he is a really useful engine. Very enjoyable episode in my book.